Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is a new Dear Profiler Pat. And I thought this was a great question. Dear Profiler Pat, how do I teach my children or grandchildren about safety without scaring the crap out of them? And I thought this is a great question because there's this interesting line between teaching them to be safe and teaching them things that maybe at their age they don't really need to know about, like how depraved human beings are, that there's creepy pedophiles living on every corner and they're going to abduct you, keep you in a dungeon, torture you, rape you over and over again, and then kill you, and your body will be found in a field. This that sounds pretty awful. Is that what you want to teach your small children and grandchildren? Probably not. All right. Now, I wrote a book. This is the one you see up here, How to Save Your Daughter's Life. This is aimed at teenagers and college students. And it's about what girls get involved in: boyfriends, drugs, alcohol, prostitution, running away from home, all these kind of things. This is a great book for your teens. You can find it on Amazon. It's only on audio right now. There's some woman that they didn't want to pay, so they didn't hire me to do my own audio, and so they hired. I think they just used a secretary or something. Oh no, it's called administrative assistant. But all right, somebody's girlfriend to do this book and didn't pay. I think because her voice is so sickeningly sweet. We all know it's not me. So I'm not fond of the audio, but the book is still good. Teaches a tremendous amount. And if you can go on to just go to eBay or someplace and try to find an actual copy of the book, because it's no longer in print form. I think I'm not sure if you can download it now. I'm trying to remember if it's Kindle. But anyway, find a copy of it for your teenagers, for your college students, not for little children. So that's a great question. What about the little children? How do you talk to the little children? Your children or your grandchildren. And I'm a grandparent now. And I remember what I said to my children when they were growing up. And now I'm a grandparent, and now I have the same problem with my granddaughter. I only have to be more careful because it's not my child. So I have to be sure I'm not stepping on my daughter's toes with my granddaughter's, what I'm saying. So how do you teach them about safety without scaring the crap out of them? And this is my way of thinking about it. I try to teach children, even young children, a thing called logic, because oddly enough, even small children understand the concept of logic. In other words, does this make sense? Or does this make sense? And they seem to understand that. So when my kids were growing up, I remember this is one of the things I always talk to my sons about. So I have two sons and a daughter. And so my sons were the same age. No, they're not twins. They're 6 weeks apart. Try to figure that out. Anyway, so my sons came up to me when they were about, I'm going to say 8. And they said, Ma, because for some reason mommy went away. But anyway, Ma, no, maybe they said mommy back then. They say Ma now. Can we go up to the playground and hang out? And I said to them, no. And they said, well, why not, Mommy? Okay. And I said, well, look at it this way. Can I beat you up? And they said, well, yeah. I'm like, if I can beat you up, if your mother can beat you up, what do you think about big teen boys? Don't you think they can beat you up at the playground? And they were like, that makes sense. See, they have logic. And they're like, yeah. I said, okay, here's the deal. When your mother can't beat you up anymore, I'll let you go to the playground. And that's the way it worked. And when they got to an age where they're big enough, then they said, Ma, you can't beat me up anymore. And they didn't say Ma about that point because they were teens. And I'm like, all right, go to the playground. So I used logic with them. But I was also a very careful parent. And sometimes parents want to be able to teach their children, my children are so smart. I just tell them how to, what to look for. And they're so smart, they never get in trouble. You are in denial. Kids are stupid. Accept that fact. Generally speaking, kids can be really stupid. That's why we have a thing where you take care of them until they're adults. And you need to take care of them. So you can't do things that allow them to get into trouble. Here's an interesting thing that's just happened in my town, which was appalling. So a 15-year-old girl, a 17 and her 17-year-old cousin got into a car with two other teenagers, and they ended up dead within hours. Why? Because a teenager driving, and I think that probably, I'm going to guess the guy with him, they had carjacked a car in a nearby community by gunpoint to steal that car. And the mother of that 15-year-old girl said, my daughter would never have gotten into a car if she had known it had been carjacked. Okay, Mom, did you even teach her she shouldn't get into a car with people? Period. I mean, where were you to say this is not appropriate for you to get into a car with two other guys? Who are these guys? Are these stellar students at your high school? Because she actually was a good high school. Are these stellar students? Are they are they studying physics, or are they barely clearing general math? Do you know who they are? And if you let your child, and that's one of the things about this book for teenagers, if you let your child run amok thinking, oh, they're going to be smart enough to figure out they shouldn't do this and that, you stupid too. Stop being stupid. Kids aren't the brightest because they're not adults. And if you let them make these decisions, you're just taking your chances. Now, I do know I grew up in an era where, for whatever reason, we were allowed, because there were no cell phones, and parents would say, go out and play and come back when the streetlights come on. And they never paid attention to what happened to you during those 5 hours. And then you showed up, the lights came on, and then you raced home. And God knows how we survived. But maybe things were a little safer then. I don't know. Maybe we just didn't have media 24/7. But yes, we survived it. But when I was raising my kids, I wasn't too happy with that. So I had more stronger rules, who they could go with, where they could go hang out. So if my daughter said, hey, I want to go to Cindy's house, I'm like, Cindy's house with a mother that has a weirdo boyfriend? No. Cindy can come here, but you can't go there. I made decisions based on what I believed was safe for my children, because I knew my children were, well, they want to go there. It's going to be fun. No, and you're an idiot. So I made those decisions. But there are times when you don't have total control, and especially with the little children, and you say, how do I teach them without scaring the crap out of them? You know what? I don't think you should be teaching. My granddaughter's 9. I do not want to talk to her about perverts, pedophiles. I don't want to. She doesn't know that stuff, and I want her to have a childhood. I don't want her to think, oh, this guy's going to do these things to me. That is sick. I mean, I didn't even know those things happened to people consensually till I was like 16, back in the day, and then I still couldn't figure out how they fit together. But I don't want my 9-year-old granddaughter to already envision all of this stuff. It's not okay with me. So how do you deal with the smaller children, girls and boys, and teach them to be safe without scaring the crap out of them or presenting a whole bunch of stuff that just ruins their childhood? And, there's a lot of things that can ruin the childhood, but hey, you don't have to be part of it as a parent or as a grandparent. Okay, so let's look at this. All right. First of all, the other day, my granddaughter, I was dropping her off at soccer. She's 9. Now, normally I would pick her up too, but I had to do a YouTube show. And so I told my daughter, I said, I can drop her off. I can't pick her up, which made me a wee bit uncomfortable because, whenever I leave a child someplace, I feel it's my responsibility to also retrieve them. And so I was dropping her off at 5:30. She was to be picked up at 7. So my daughter was like, okay, we got this covered. Don't worry about it, Mom. So her dad was coming home, but he could be stuck in traffic. Her grandfather might be home, so he could pick her up. My daughter, if she had to, could just jump off of work. And if necessary, in the last resort, I will postpone my show and run up and get her. But all these things, because my daughter and her husband are good parents, and there's another great grandfather, not my husband, but the other side of the family involved. And everybody wanted to make sure my granddaughter was safe. But as I dropped her off, I had this weird feeling. Again, that what happens if it's 7 o'clock? Nobody's there for whatever reasons. What do I teach my granddaughter about? What do you do if All the parents come and pick up the kids. You're standing there going, waiting for that vehicle to show up with somebody you know, and it doesn't show up for whatever reasons. What do you do? So I had a discussion with her. I said, okay, what happens if 7 o'clock comes in and dad's not there, grandpa's not there, somebody's not there, and you look out and everybody's leaving? What do you do? She's like, so I said, here's what you do. I said, first of all, never allow yourself to be alone. I said, witnesses, witnesses, witnesses. You always want people around you. Bad people do not do things when there's a lot of people around because it's harder to do those things. So I said, so what you want to do is make sure you're around people and also around somebody you trust, which is your coach is a trustworthy guy. I said, tell your coach, hey, I'm supposed to be picked up at 7, but something seems to be amiss here. And you hang by his side so he can protect you. I said, let's say you looked around to your coach like, whoop, your coach vanished on you. What do you do? I said, go toward people. Go toward another team that has lots of children, mommies and daddies, and a coach. Go hang out there. That's what you do. You always go with a bunch of people. Never just wander off and stand by the road going, I hope somebody's going to come and get me. Hey, here's a car. You know. So I told her about how to stay around a group of people that would protect you because bad people don't like to grab people when there's people around. So that's what I told her. And, everybody showed up on time. So it wasn't a big deal. But that was what I told her. Witnesses, witnesses, witnesses. Always stay where you can be safe because being alone is where danger happens. And I said, if you're alone, no matter what, I said, when I travel, I told my granddaughter, I always make sure I'm around women and children. I don't end up a lonely person walking down a road where some crazy person grabs me. I said, well, around women and children on a bus or on a train so that nobody's going to bother me. Now, let me talk about the issue of crazy person and stupid person. Okay, so these days, the word stupid does not seem to be permitted and the word crazy is not permitted. But I use those exact words when I talk to my granddaughter about safety. Why do I do this? Well, first of all, stupid is actually it's a word you can use without getting into detail, without totally getting into what the problem of the stupidity is. If you use crazy, it's the same thing. You don't have to say psychopath, pedophile. You don't have to say those things, just say crazy. Kids know that person's stupid. They did dumb stuff. They can get that. That person's crazy. Why do they do crazy things? They can get that. You don't going into detail with a 9-year-old about personality disorders is not really useful. So I use stupid and crazy. Sue me, school systems. I find them useful. Now, here's what. I tell my granddaughter, there's 2 types of people that you don't want to mess with, stupid people and crazy people. I said, stupid people just don't think. A lot of times they're teenagers. They're just people who just don't think. They do stupid stuff. So I talked to her about motorcycles. Now, she has ridden on the back of a motorcycle, her father's. My daughter rides a motorcycle. My son-in-law rides a motorcycle. I do not like motorcycles. I will not get on them, but they ride them. But they also ride the kind of motorcycles where essentially, I'm not going to give names of the motorcycle, but just solid motorcycles, not crotch rockets. So my granddaughter has learned the difference between being on a motorcycle with a responsible human being that they're not doing stupid stuff on. And I tell her, nothing in life is perfect. There's always things called accidents, but there's a difference between if your dad takes you on the motorcycle, he's going to be as careful as he can. And if an accident happens, it's one of those weirdo things in life. But if you're like 14 years old and your little boyfriend who's 17 says, hey, get on my motorcycle. And he's riding a crotch rocket and she knows what a crotch rocket is. So you're like that. And you're going down the street 100 miles an hour and you're running to a tree and you dead. That's because your boyfriend's stupid and he did stupid stuff because he's on a crotch rocket. People on crotch rockets tend to do stupid stuff. Sorry, crotch rocket people. I'm not saying there's not other situations, but that's stupid. He's not crazy. He's not like a person who is evil or horrible or anything. He's just stupid. So I said to my granddaughter, I said, well, you always got to be careful about people just being stupid. Like you go with your friends, you walk over a bridge and somebody goes, hey, jump off the bridge, man. It's cool. But you have no idea how deep the water is. So you stupidly jump off the bridge, you break your neck and, end up in a wheelchair. They weren't bad people around you. They're stupid people. And if you do jump off that bridge, you're stupid too. So don't do stupid stuff. Don't do stupid stuff. And a lot of us, if we stop thinking clearly, we can do stupid stuff. And the younger the person is, the more likely are they to do stupid stuff because they haven't grown up enough to learn not to do stupid stuff. So my granddaughter always laughs because she understands the concept of doing stupid stuff and people doing stupid stuff. Don't hang out with people who do stupid stuff. And when you get to a teenager, being a teen, don't do stupid stuff. Somebody says, hey, look, take these pills. They're not crazy. They're stupid. They're like, take these pills. You go, ugh. And you go, ugh. I said, you didn't even know what was in the pill. They're stupid. You're stupid. So now you're dead stupid. So I teach her and she laughs because she understands the concept of stupid. Then I talked to her about crazy. I said, now crazy is a different thing. I said, crazy is a person who, they're not just stupid. They just do things that are really wrong. They break the law. They don't care about other people. They're so crazy in their own weirdo world. You cannot trust them. They're not just dumb. Get away from those people. So I said, for example, I said, you're walking home from school, which she doesn't do. We pick her up. And some guy pops out and says, I lost my puppy. I said to her, now you do love puppies. You will pat every puppy that goes by you. She's a puppy lover. I said, here's a grown man, lost his puppy. I said, he says, can you go help me find my puppy in the woods? I said, do you go with this man who's asked you to go in the woods, look for a puppy? I said, first of all, how do you know he lost a puppy in the woods? Secondly, he might be crazy. So you don't want to go in the woods with a crazy man. I don't have to say what crazy man would do to her, which is probably he's a pedophile and is going to rape and murder her. I'm not going to get into that because this is not nice. I would simply say, he's crazy, man. You don't know. And her idea of crazy could be anything. I don't even know what her vision of it is, but she knows something not good would happen in the woods. I said, hey, he's a grown man. He can find his own puppy. You don't need to go in the woods with him. Let's say another guy comes along and says, hey, you want a new kitty? We have kittens. I have kittens at my house. You don't know this dude. You don't know his house. You're going to walk in his house to look at some kittens? I'm like, do you not have friends who have kittens? Does a humane society not have kittens? There's a lot of kittens around you. You do not need to go off with crazy man to crazy man's house to look at his kittens because you don't know if he even has kittens or when you get there, we're just going to show you any kittens. Why are you doing that? That's the way I talk to her. So I'd say things like, somebody comes along and says, I'll give you, your mother's been in an accident. I'm going to give you a ride to the hospital. You don't know this guy? This could be crazy guy. This is crazy guy. Don't go with crazy guy. You can find friends, you can find relatives that will tell you whether somebody's been in an accident and is at the hospital. Don't go with crazy guy. And so I use that because I don't have to go into detail about what crazy guy would do. I just have to say, you don't want to take a chance on crazy guy getting a hold of you. So your friends are more stupid people because they're your age. Older people can be crazy people that you don't want to take chances with. So I said, you always go to people you trust, always, an adult that you trust, your mother, your grandmother, your father, your grandfather, whomever, the Girl Scout leader or whatever, whoever you're near, the coach. I know people have things about coaches these days, but our coach is a great guy. Anyway, but you don't necessarily want to be alone with a coach if you can help it. That's a whole nother story. But that's where parents come in. But you teach her to stay where trustworthy adults are, get their input before you make some decision that you're going to feel sorry about and you can't fix because you just went off with a stupid person or crazy guy. And so far, I see my granddaughter responding to logic. I saw my children growing up. I was a criminal profiler when they're growing up. It wasn't like I didn't have information, but I used logic with them. And so they seemed to understand the logic behind what I had to say, even though they were young. Now, mind you, people say, oh, my kids are smart, blah, blah, blah. But they never teach them the logic and the exactness of what they need to do. They just think their kids can run around in society and be smart not to take drugs. Yeah, okay. That's not true. So unless you really work with your child, that is not true. And you also still have to protect your child. For all the crap that I taught my kids, my granddaughter, the one thing I've always been concerned about is you still have to make sure the environment is as safe as possible. Yes, we have cameras in the house. We have cameras outside the house. My daughter is a detective. She's worked in child abuse. She's worked in sex crime. She's worked in homicide. She tries to raise her daughter to not fear the world, but she's also not an idiot. And same for me. When I raised my kids, I was a criminal profiler and I homeschooled. So that made things easier for me. But I was very cautious about who they spent time with, whether they spent time with relatives I didn't trust, whether they went to houses down, like, no, you're not going to the house. They can come here, but you're not going to go there. I made sure that I made their world as safe as I could make it. Can't be perfect, but I tried to make the world as safe as I could make it. And when I knew they were going outside the safety net that I had drawn, then I taught them about stupid people and crazy people. And of course, later on, they realized what those things meant. Stupid people sort of stayed the same because they're, generally speaking, teenagers, young adults just do dumb things because they think, oh, this is fun. I'm going to take this drug. I'm going to drive fast. I'm going to do all the things young people will do for the thrill and excitement because they're stupid. They sort of stay the same. But the crazy people, of course, as they got older, then I could introduce the issue of pedophiles, pimps, creepy people on the internet who, that kind of stuff. I could get into that when they were older. But, when they're 6, when they're 9, when they're 12, let them have a childhood. Let them love life. Let them love you. Let them love puppies. Let them love cats. Let them love art and riding horses and all the things they're going to love. Don't spend their entire time telling them about the most gruesome stuff about just how evil human beings are. Don't let them fear every moment they're going to be kidnapped by some sex pervert. Don't do that to them. That's cruelty. Let them have a childhood and explain things in a way that is not terrifying, but still makes a little bit of sense to them so that they can do the smart thing and protect them. That's your job. That's your job. And if you don't do your job, if you bring creepy boyfriend into your house who sexually assaults your daughter, that's your problem. That's your fault. All right? If you do drugs in your house and you wonder why your kids get into drugs, that's your fault. So first you look at yourself. Am I providing a safe and decent environment for my child? Am I introducing into this environment with my small children people that I cannot trust just because I want to love her, just because I'm bored, just because, hey, I like to have fun too, that kind of crap. If you're going to introduce that into your child's life, you're responsible for what happens to them. And you can't teach them things that you aren't even willing to properly deal with yourself. Your children, they should be living in a protected environment till they're adults. You should provide that. If it means that you don't remarry for 10 years, you don't remarry. If it means that you don't have a boyfriend move in, you don't have that boyfriend move in, or that creepy girlfriend either, because some of those girlfriends aren't so nice either. Whomever, you don't do that to them. You make sure you don't have bad babysitters. You make sure they don't hang out with the wrong people. You don't dump them with people because you want to go away for a week and you don't really, you're not really concerned about where you dump them. So none of these are all your problems. All right. But once you've done that, you're a good parent. Then you're worrying about what's outside that you cannot control. How can you make things safe for your child? So first of all, you don't allow your child to go places that are not safe. Simple fact. And if you don't trust the people's houses, you don't let your child go to those people's houses. You tell your children, I don't trust them. You don't let them get in cars with people you don't know. Or you end up dead running into a tree and getting blown up. That's what happened for these 4 kids. You don't let them go places that you don't know are safe. If as adults, I don't want to go places that aren't safe. Why should your children do that? and they don't even have the abilities that we have as adults. Your responsibility is to make sure they don't go to unsafe places. If the school is unsafe, get your kid out of that dang school. If you can do it. I mean, some people that financially can't do anything. But if your kid is going to a school where there's drugs and sexual assault and all kinds of nasty things going on, pull your kid, put them in private school, homeschool, and whatever you can do. You're the parent. Now, I know, again, sometimes life is so hard that you don't have much choices. Then you just have to, your kids go to school, but you can watch what's going on, and you can make sure they're the safest they can be under a bad situation. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes you live, we all imagine, oh, well, you're living in a nice community. What if you're not living in a nice community? What if you don't have any money? You got married, you had 2 kids, and the guy you were married to turned into a creepo. He's in prison for 30 years, or he died or whatever. And now you got 2 kids, and you're living in a shabby area. And your neighbors can be friendly, but they got problems. They got drug problems. They got criminal problems, all this kind of stuff. You got an extra hard job to protect your children. It's life. And you have to tell your children, well, we'll live in a shithole. But some of the people around here are super nice in spite of that. And so we're going to hook up with the super nice people, but we're going to be very cautious about who you spend time with. And because I want you to be successful in life in spite of the fact that our situation is difficult. Life is not always perfect. But as a parent, that's your responsibility to make your children as safe as possible within the world you live in. And if they have to go outside of those lines, which kids do at some point, walking to school, playing in the yard, anything, then you teach them stupid person, crazy person. Because those to me are the easiest things to teach young children, and don't ruin their lives by having them just imagine the most grotesque, miserable, horrifying things. It's not fair. Even as adults, we don't like to envision those things. Don't put that on your children. Just go with something simple. They don't need more than that. Simple, but clear and logical. And, repeat it over and over till your kids hate you. That's fine. And tell them, I'm talking to you like, tell them you want them to understand this. And a lot of times they respect that. So I had 3 children who did make it to adulthood and didn't get in trouble. No, none of them broken the law. They've all done well. And they still mock me for some of the things I said when they were growing up. And I said, but it worked, didn't it? So mock me all you want. Now that you have your own child, you see what I mean. So parents, grandparents, this is my advice to you. That's my Dear Profiler advice on how do you teach children or grandchildren to be safe without scaring the living crap out of them, okay? You want them to be happy children, okay? That's my advice. So anyway, that's it. I hope that helped you all out. Thank you very much for being here. If you're new, please do like the channel. Please do subscribe. Please check out the other Dear Profiler Pat advice things. And hey, there's a whole bunch of other playlists you can look at for crime analysis and all that. But glad you were here. Thank you very much. Bye.